Hello and welcome to Pluribus Fireside Chats. Not as good as FDR's, but hey, it's something. Alright, today's the day, the Blasphemy episode. If you follow me on Twitter, which many of you probably don't really care. Anyways, I was sick for the past couple of days. Things are getting a bit weird because I'm getting close on, I'm not even really getting that close on big epic project of the year, and I have to really buckle down. It's really hard to buckle down when I have so much to do. I really should have started editing it fucking last year. I really should have, or at the very least I should have recorded all the segments last year or something like that. I would really hate it if the project got delayed. It will. I am shooting for a specific date. I'm not saying what the date is yet, because the people in the Patreon know. If you know the relevance of that date, you'll know the relevance of the date. But I am trying desperately to avoid the date getting pushed back. I'm desperately trying to avoid it. But there is a good chance that it actually might get delayed because there are so many things left to do. In a very possible rare case, I might make it and upload it in parts. I don't know, we'll cross that bridge when we get to it, but I'm going to have to buckle down really hard. I'm even at the point where I'm literally thinking, oh fuck, I might have to literally cancel every single other episode that I am making to make this video. I'm trying to avoid that too. I'll take the fucking stress or whatever it's putting on my body, whatever the fuck, I don't care. The one thing that just stinks is that I just wish I had another editor or something. I wish I had another editor so I could show them the parts that I have done right now and just be like, edit it in a format like this. Here's some clips of that section that I really think would be useful. And here's the fucking stock footage place that I do. And provide me the stock footage. Yeah, you heard that right. Big teaser for the next episode. This one includes stock footage because I couldn't find any other way to fill the void of the video. You'll know when you see it. I might even entice people by uploading because I have to keep also uploading it. Because not only do I have to upload it and export it, I have to upload it, export it, then post it on second Patreon channel, see if it is able to be uploaded without any copyright issues, then move all that stuff into a thumb drive so I can make sure I save all this video segments and then upload it to Google Drive and then make sure everything is ready. Doing a lot of things to make sure that this video goes off without a hitch. And even then, I don't know if it's going to be the best video. It will be the best video. It will be the best video. It'll be trash among other videos, but it'll be the best damn thing on this channel because it is literally the only, if you knew, because I post things on the Twitter, I post things in my Discord, I post everything. I don't post I've been keeping this video essentially hidden, but I don't keep one thing hidden. I don't keep the runtime hidden, and that's before it is fully edited. I really gotta buckle down to make sure that it is exactly right. Or at the very least, I should have edited some of the fucking longer segments first. This next part, I think I'm gonna edit a longer section now, so that I can just move forward with that part. Fuck, this is driving me insane. I might literally just do it. I might just put a poll. I might actually just put a poll guys, should I just cancel every single other video that I'm making this year so I could put 110% of my energy on this video? Legitimately. And when I say every video, I don't mean podcasts. I could still do podcasts, whatever. I could just shit them out whenever. But I'm at the genuine point where I'm just I think I might actually just pull the plug on literally every single other video I'm making this year. And it sucks because some of these videos were bangers. But I don't know. I might attempt it. I'll go crazy, but whatever the fuck. Anyways, let's get right into the news. First, good news. To try and bring some positivity, Senegal has actually just done something very interesting. They've elected a new president. The president is named Bassirou Diomaye Faye, a former tax inspector who is a political newcomer. He ran under a political party called the African Patriots of Senegal for Work Ethics and Fraternity, also known as PASTEF, which is a left-wing populist and pan-Africanist party. And the interesting thing that happened is that in 2019, this party got third place with 15% of the votes over a party called the Alliance for the Republic, which is basically this like prominent like conservative party that has a little bit of a shady history in the past or whatever. And what ended up happening is that party ended up getting arrested. Like the guy who led that party ended up getting arrested. So people were concerned that this election wasn't going to pan out well for that left-wing opposition. But they actually managed to pull an upset with Faye. Impressive. Hopefully this means good for Senegal. I don't know much about Senegal politics, but I do know that left-wing populist is probably a better choice than fucking like center-right conservative. Okay, so next, more good news from America. Okay, so Andy Kim has gotten rid of the county line he's gotten rid of the line in New Jersey. Now, for those who don't know what this is, let me explain what the line is, because the line has been getting a lot of attention recently. So, in New Jersey, they have this very strange they have this very strange way they structure ballots. And what they do is, instead of structuring the ballot like a normal ballot, like take a look at the North Carolina ballot, it divides each race by office, and then you vote based on the office. And most states do this. I haven't seen every single state ballot, but most states generally do that because that's a very obvious and simple way to do the ballot. But in New Jersey, each county has a different ballot rule. Like, they all follow the same freaking rule, but they all run it a little bit different. And basically, here's how it works. In each county, in each area, instead of structuring the ballot like very simple, the ballot is structured like a fucking like, I forget what they're called. What's it called? A fucking like, do you know what I'm talking about? They're like those boxes that they have you do in school where it's like, on this box is this thing, this box is this thing. Like, it's like a chart or whatever. Basically like a fucking chart or checklist boxes, whatever. But anyways, on the side, you have the offices that each candidate is running for. Say, president, governor, senate, house, mayor, whatever. And instead of structuring it so that each candidate is in their own section of like each race is its own section, instead, all the races are there together. They list the candidates in the races and then fill out the boxes based on whatever. And what you want is to get in the line, because it's an unspoken rule that if you're in the line of the party leaders and the party bosses, you get preferential treatment. It's that first ballot line, like that first column that you want. Because that first column is given to the party bosses and the party heads and the people that they want to be in office. Like, basically, like in 2012, they put Obama Biden there. And basically anybody who wanted to be in the nomination and win wanted to get in the same ballot line in the same column as Obama Biden. And if they didn't like you, they would just put you in any of the other spots. And even if it made no fucking sense, like, literally, here's what they would do. There was one ballot line, I think it was the 2020 ballot. They had Biden in one part, then like 3 spaces down, they had Bernie. It's like, that makes no sense. Why is Bernie 3 spaces down? And I think Larry Ham was like 4 spaces down. And basically that's how it works. Like, that's how incumbent politicians stay in their power. They keep the line. They stay in that first column. And you only get snubbed if you get kicked out of that first column. And if you're a newcomer, you desperately try to fight to get in that first column, get a bunch of like county endorsements so that you get to be put in that first column on their ballot. And that's what was going on in this incumbent Senate race. Like, many progressives in New Jersey have been calling out the line for a long period of time, but nobody was paying attention. That was until this big scandal with Bob Menendez, because that would involve, like, all of this made it so that Bob Menendez was more than likely going to be kicked off the line. So a new candidate needed to come in to fill the line. And that's where we got Andy Kim and Tammy Murphy to enter the scene, where Tammy Murphy basically felt, oh, I'm a nepotism, so I get to be part of the line. And then Andy Kim was like, no, wait, I was running. I was one of the first people to call out Menendez, so why are you snubbing me?
Because it seemed that a lot of county bosses were joining with them, be like, yeah, we want Tammy Murphy. And it's like, okay then. So then people were starting to fight the line a lot more objectively and a lot more nationwide. And Andy Kim went so far as to try and take the line to court to discuss the very bad issues about this ballot line debacle. But one of the funny things was that Andy Kim was doing this, but simultaneously winning the line in almost every single county that he was running in. Despite the fact that party heads were saying that they wanted Tammy Murphy to win, many of the parties instead were literally just deciding to give the line to Andy Kim. So he was doing a very big problem to the point where he was getting more lines than Tammy Murphy did, leading to Tammy Murphy to suspend her bid because she realized, I literally just have no chance of winning anymore. And after she dropped out, a lot of people in New Jersey politics immediately turned around and said, Andy Kim, all right, now you can suspend your lawsuit to ban the line. Andy Kim's like, no? What do you mean no? She's out. You get to be part of the line. That was your problem, right? That you weren't part of the line? And he's like, no, that was my problem. My problem was the line exists at all. I'm going to fight to get rid of the line. And he did. A judge literally just said, yeah, we're going to have normal ballots for this next election. There are a lot of people who have been trying to figure out, like, this doesn't mean anything for broader elections, but the fact of the matter is many people say that this is a Pandora's box. Once you change the ballot design and things start changing for the better, you can't necessarily go back to an old level. I mean, you can. Like, I mean, the United States suffered very heavy casualties of capitalism, and they're just like, all right, back we go. But, you know, maybe it signifies good changes. And that's the thing. I have to give Kim that. Kim, I'm not really the biggest fan of Andy Kim. Like, Andy Kim is, I mean, for lack of a better term, like, just mid. Like, Andy Kim's, like, pretty mid, all things considered. But he did do a good thing. And, I mean, when he is in the Senate, I think he would be a genuine improvement over the guy who's currently in office. And if he maintains this, if let's say the line comes back in the next election, I hope he's back to fight it again. And there are and the reason why I like this is not just due to the unfairness, it's that basically all the right people are mad at this. And one of the biggest criticisms that has been going on right now is the fact that Joshua Gothmeier was basically hedging his bets on getting the line when he inevitably runs for governor. And now he actually can't do that. He has to actually run as a legitimate candidate that people like. Which is a big problem, considering everybody fucking hates him. Now, there's not much else for me to say on that, except for one funny thing, which probably isn't true, but I'm going to say it anyways, because it's funny. Phil Murphy has been regarded as one of the most progressive governors in U.S., like, at least currently. I don't know necessarily how true it is, especially considering Tammy Murphy's, like, current, like, Tammy Murphy's very odd, and it's like, whatever. Like, my theory is that maybe, potentially, this was the plan. Maybe he made Tammy Murphy made her run such a bad campaign that it destroyed the line. What if that was the game plan all along, guys? Never doubt Murphy's plan. Speaking of doubt, yeah, there's some big doubt going on among very prominent, or at least somewhat prominent, Democratic organizations. Okay, so first is a decently prominent one called the Jewish Democratic Council of America, who announced their endorsement of primary challengers to Jamal Bowman and Cory Bush. And coming along that same vein, just today, a different fucking organization, I don't know who runs it, I don't know how they're even prominent, I don't really know who they are. From what I gather, it's from that, like, fucking, like, really fat girl who, I don't know her name, I don't really give a fuck about her name. And I know some people are gonna look at the comments and be like, you called her fat? How dare you? She is. She's fat. What's her name? Olivia Johnson? Whatever the fuck her name is. Basically, it's an organization that's like, we're Gen Z Democrats. And then they immediately announced today, like, yeah, we're gonna back the one Gen Z prominent candidate, George Latimer. Really? Like, really? It's so fucking stupid. Like, really? Of all the Gen Z... This is the fucking strangest thing. This could make a video of itself. Like, I don't fucking get this whole, like, spiel of, like, young people literally just being the fucking establishment. I don't get it. Like, why of all the things would young people want to be the thing that brought the bad things in our society? I don't get it. Like, I don't get why a young person would want to not only be a Republican, or like why they would want to be anything except a dismantling of the establishment. I don't get why they wouldn't do that. The only reason I obviously get is that money. It's money. They want fucking money. That's all they want. All they want is money. That's just the fucking strangest thing. I don't, like, Olivia, all she wants is fame and money, and she'll get that. Like, that's what she'll get when she does this grift. It's easy to grift. It's hard to be a truth teller. But one thing that I find interesting is that the Jewish group that ended up endorsing against Cory Bush and Jamal Bowman, they literally backed against a Jewish Democrat in the last cycles. They backed against Andy Levin and were one of the people who backed Haley Stevens. And when they were called out on this very obvious hypocrisy, they tried to diminish it, but all it did was just show that they're full of shit. That's what they are. Like, whatever. Speaking of hypocrisy and shit, big, interesting, funny thing from Montana. So, this is a thing that just shows how Republicans are stupid, nonsensical, they don't understand anything, and I know exactly where this is going to go when the election actually comes. So, for those who don't know, Republicans are fucking stupid, but one of the things that they like to pretend is that they like to get rid of, like, government agencies. They like to pretend like, oh, we're going to cut government. And, well, this is what happened. Currently, there is a Senate candidate in Montana named Tim Seehy. And he is one of those Republicans trying to claim, like, oh, I'm going to cut government spending. I'm going to cut some agencies. That's one of the things governments love, like, the Republicans love to fucking do. They like to pretend, like, oh, we're going to cut some agencies when we get into power, when they're not going to, because they're feckless and stupid and idiotic. But here's the thing. Tim Seehy was caught on a hot mic. Well, I don't think it was a hot mic. It was just an interview mic. And talking about how one of the agencies that he wanted to get rid of was the Department of Homeland Security. Now, what is very interesting is that Tim Seehy and a lot of other people in Montana, especially like Matt Rosendale, the person who was ideally running to challenge him, a lot of the Republicans, especially now in this cycle, have been trying to run very heavy on the border, claiming that there's a crisis on the border. Now, if you know anything about anything, you'll understand that these two positions are not all remotely compatible, because the Department of Homeland Security is literally the thing that dictates United States border policy. So if you want to defund and get rid of the Department of Homeland Security, you are campaigning on open borders. That is what you're campaigning on. Now, of course, Tim Seehy doesn't understand this because he's brain dead, and Republicans don't understand this because they're brain dead. And what they're going to do is they're going to campaign that somehow John Tester is somehow less stringent on the border than Tim Seehy, despite the fact that Tim Seehy is literally running on open borders, which is a lot of the same sort of strange hypocrisy that the GOP loves to do. We need to take care of our people at home, but then also campaign on defunding literally every single social program in the United States, saying that they hate groomers, and then also supporting child marriage laws, claiming that they hate the government, despite the fact that if the government was abolished, like they so claim that they want, literally open borders, open crisis, killing everywhere, everybody dies. No police, no military, no nothing. And the last form of Republican hypocrisy we'll have to get into the main subject of this video. Perfect way to segue. Alright, so I don't necessarily know what this title is going to be, because as I was writing the notes for this, I realized the title that I had for this might not necessarily work. But again, you might as well call this one the Blasphemy episode, because that's basically what's going on in this episode. This episode is, of course, basically going to be very critical of religion. Wow, what a surprise. Me, critical of religion? That's crazy. Now, it's no secret that I, Pluribus Unum, am an atheist. Growing up in a kind of religious household, this is kind of like, I think this is very common among the United States. It's like where like a lot of people are like Christian, quote unquote, but they don't really do anything to really do any, like they say they're Christian, and why are they Christian? Because they were told when they were kids they were Christian. That's basically it. At most, there was pictures of Jesus around the house and like crosses sometimes. And it also helped by the fact that it was kind of a multi-faith household. Not necessarily in the sense that they were Christian, yes, but it was like Catholic and I guess Baptist, though they're a lot more non-denominational, but like, you know, basically like, yeah, just generally just like Christian, but they didn't really do anything. No church, no like sermons, no praying or whatever. Basically some of the most very superficial understanding of what Christianity was. Like, the most fucking religious I got was literally, like, the most fucking religious that I got, like, growing up was literally just reading, like, not reading the Bible, but, like, reading fucking, like, Bible trivia cards. They're, like, Bible, like, trading, I don't know what they were. They're, like, Bible trading cards, and, like, on the back, it was, like, on the front, it was, like, this sounds like a fucking joke from, like, a TV show, but, like, no, this was real. It was, like, on the front was a picture of, like, a biblical figure, and then on the back, it was, like a biography of who they were. Like, you know, front was Noah or Josiah. Was it Josiah or Joseph? Whatever. I think one of them was like, this person might have been the same I don't fucking remember all of them fucking like crazy. But like, it was like Moses, Josiah, Samson? Yeah, Samson. That was another one. It was like this like Dollar Tree crap. Because it's one of the fucking easiest ways to make money in this world. Literally just, if you just want to make money, literally just start selling people religious crap. You'll make a ton of money that way. Anyways, whatever. That's beside the point. But like, basically, yeah. Basically, I grew up like kind of religious, but not really religious. Again, with the most vaguest understanding of what Christianity was. Then, you know, eventually, when you start getting older and you start actually experiencing the world, all of a sudden, this little like skewed perspective of Christianity that I was fed, it didn't really work with the actual rest of the world. Especially when you are a very skeptical and curious person like I am. So naturally, things started not adding up with the whole religion thing. And then I started thinking, what if that isn't really necessarily 100% true? So then I'm trying to remember, how long did I do this? I think it was like from fucking middle school to like, I think really it was like from ages like 12 to 15, or maybe I guess 12 to 14, I identified as an agnostic. So a lot of people like to choose that term to identify themselves. Like, I'm an agnostic, when that's bullshit. Like, because agnostic literally just means you don't know. That is what the term agnostic means. If you are Gnostic, you know. If you are agnostic, you don't know. Which doesn't answer the question. That answers a separate question. Because it's like, that's basically the thing I kind of like understood about the whole like difference between like what's an atheist and what's an agnostic. Agnostic answers the question, do you know there is a God? And atheist is the question, do you believe there is a God? And when I was posed that question again, with that in mind, like, do you believe? It's like, well, no then. And that was partially helped with me, like, exploring and figuring out things. And it's like, yeah, you just look into things like, particularly looking through things like new atheism, particularly through the skeptic community. Which, if you know, would evolve in two very distinct directions, BreadTube and the alt-right, with basically all of the actual leaders of new atheism being extremely cringe nowadays. Hitchens before his death becoming a huge neocon, Sam Harris known for his association with the intellectual dark web, a person I didn't even know was part of the new atheist movement, Ayaan Hirsi Ali, is one of the fucking strangest people, cause here's her story, if you don't know her story. She was an ex-Muslim who got very prominent online due to very critical movies about Muslims. And her biggest thing was that she left Islam and became a skeptic and an atheist, which is a very notable thing. But then, like, literally, like, at the beginning of fucking, like, last year, she became a Christian, and she's literally just a conservative Christian now. But, of course, the biggest L for me was this person is someone I actually admired, Richard Dawkins being a huge fucking transphobe, so, yeah. And the backlash of the new atheist leaders, like the fall of new atheism, I guess, led to two things. One, the rise of religious leftists. I mean, prior to 2018, it seemed like all of the people on the online left were either an atheist or a Muslim. Like, literally think about it. Can you think of anybody on the online left prior to 2018 who wasn't an atheist or a Muslim? No, you can't. Granted, there wasn't that much of an online left there to begin with, but think about it. Like, again, the ones who were there, what were their religions? Atheist or Muslim? Although technically some would be like, I'm agnostic, but that's as Pierce from Community once said, the lazy man's atheist. Especially, like, one of the things that's very especially interesting is the fact that we've been seeing the rise of an openly Christian left. Like, literally in 2018, the idea that there would be a large Christian left would seem almost unbelievable, like, in that time period. And with the rise of many religious leftists, it's also led to a lot of people to get critical of atheism in general, coming from the left. Like, we get the typical, like, spiel from, like, right-wingers, because right-wingers are, like, very reactionary, but a lot of, like, prominent, like, a lot of prominent left-wing accounts are now also starting to be, like, critical of atheism. I remember seeing this meme from a communist account that literally celebrated the death of atheism and trying to demean all the arguments that the new atheist thinkers have made. Which is very odd due to the fact that many of the things that people give criticism or, like, critique or whatever to new atheism don't really pertain towards the arguments towards religion, and neither do the things that religious leftists use to explain their views, with religion still broadly being detrimental to society. And maybe with this episode I will try my best to explain why, but I don't think really necessarily that the episode will be that much. I think it will mostly just be a rant about religion. Now, I guess before we get into all of that stuff, I will have to say this to everybody who's watching this video. It's not inherently bad if you are religious. You're 100% wrong and are falling for prehistoric superstitions made up by cave dwellers thousands of years ago, but you absolutely have the right to be 100% wrong and fall for prehistoric superstitions made up by cave dwellers thousands of years ago. That's your right. You're allowed to be wrong and be stupid. That's a fact. You're allowed to be wrong. Also, I should mention this, since the US is very religiously Christian, and the fact that this episode is going to come up on Easter, this episode is going to be mostly focusing on Christianity. And it's also because that's my experience with religion, I guess. I mean, I've never been a Muslim. I've looked into Islam. I've looked into all the religions. I mean, but I don't have any personal experience of Islam. Maybe in the Pluribus Unum Islam arc, we'll figure out what's the issue there. Now, the first thing I'll state is this. Like, this is the one thing that new atheists, no matter every single L that you can give to new atheists, there's one massive W that they can still take. And all the time since the new atheism movement has risen and apparently fallen, still haven't seen any proof of a God. I mean, with this so-called fall of the new atheist movement, I would have assumed that somebody would have figured out, like, the proof that God is there. Still haven't seen it. And all this time, I haven't seen any proof that your specific deity exists. And there's a thing, there are people who are going to be religious are going to try and comment some bullshit. And I actually did try to do one thing. Like, before I made this video, before I started writing this video, or at least I started writing some parts of this video, I actually tried to watch a recent pro-religious video. It was like this video, like, debunking atheist arguments. It's like, wow, maybe someone finally proved the atheist wrong. But it's like, no, it's literally just rehashed arguments that TJ Kirk, like, debunked, like, in 2007. Like what? Like, there's literally no further arguments you can make, and that's the problem with a lot of religious people. You can't argue with them because their viewpoints are so ingrained in their personal identity that they cannot fathom anything remotely different. Like, to the point where literally it's just like every single thing in the world is somehow proof that a deity exists. Like, a baby looks up into the sky, they're looking at angels. Or they're looking at the ceiling. Just thought. You see the sunset. The sunset's so beautiful. So beautiful. That's proof God's real. Wait, how? Like, what do you mean? How's that proof? Unless there's like a signature that says that God was here, I don't think that's proof. And then also, how do you explain that it's your specific deity? Like, how is it your specific deity that's real? Like, I got into an argument in a family member, and it's like, how is your specific deity real? Like, this is why you think your specific deity is real. Your parents were raised that way. Their parents were raised that way. Their parents were raised that way. Their parents were raised that way. That's how religion spreads. You don't get a person who is, like, I mean, because I haven't seen any fucking religious person that's like, I looked at every single religion in the world, and I'm thinking, you know what? I'm going to pick this one of all the religions. I'm going to pick this one. You never did that. It's 99.9% of the time, a person who, or at the very least 99% of the time, a person who was taught by their parents, who were taught by their grandparents, who were taught by their grandparents, who were taught by their grandparents, to believe in this specific interpretation of a book that was written literally thousands of years ago. And all the things that you say about your deity, all the things, like, because I've gotten this argument before, and I point this out, literally, they're just like, look, the sky, blah, 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 blah. It's like, yeah, and some guy in fucking Iran is making that exact same argument about Islam. They look at the sky and they go, that's why our God is real. The biggest one that many people, I think, would use as a proof of it is people on their deathbed or people dying. Like, oh yeah, you see, this person died and they saw heaven. That's proof. It's like, I hate to break it to you, but it's not. A lot of these things are not proof. For starters, I gotta explain like a very actual scientific explanation of a lot of things about people dying. Basically, when you're dying, your brain, when you do the thing where it's like your flashes like your life before your eyes and then you like kind of start drifting away, it's what your brain is playing to essentially ease you into dying, because your brain is trying to search through all your memories to figure out, oh shit, like, what am I going to do? How do I get out of this situation? Because your brain's trying to figure out, like, how do I avoid dying? But since you have never experienced death, it can't find an answer. So if you think you're dying, that's why your life flashes before your eyes. And then, as you're easing into death, your body plays what you need to see to ease you into death. And if you're a Christian, what are you naturally going to want to see when you're dying? You want to see the ceiling open up and see all of your relatives that you want to see when you die. That's what you want to see. You want to see Jesus hold his hand out and be like, it is time, my child. You are ready. Much the same way when a Muslim person dies, what they want to see is their 72 virgins. Much in the same way, if a Jewish person dies, they want to see, I don't necessarily know what religious people believe when they die. Like, I think they go to heaven. I think that's what it is. It's that Jewish people don't have a hell. They have purgatory, I think. Wait, is that why a lot of, like, fucking, like, ghosts, like, is that what a lot of people are, because, off tangent, but, like, notice how a lot of, like, ghosts and stuff in, like, media, a lot of them like to say, like, we're in purgatory or whatever. Is that like the media trying to subtly push anti-Semitism onto us? Like, claiming that a lot of Jews don't get to go to heaven? But, like, yeah, if you have those experiences in your life of being, like, a heavily religious person, that's what you're going to see when you inevitably die. I mean, when you get a heavily Christian person suddenly see his 72 virgins in heaven, that's when you're starting to see, like, okay, maybe something's up. And I know this as a fact that because there was a person who also experienced, like, dying, like, literally dying and then coming back to life, like, dying and then being resuscitated, and they explained that their perspective, nothing happened. They literally just went black, and then they went, like, they came to life. That's what they remember. No pearly gates, no 72 virgins, no heaven, nothing. Conveniently, they don't bring up those people whenever they try to bring up a person dying as proof of going to heaven. I find this very odd, because they're just like, there's a lot more agreement with atheists and every single religious person out there than you think. This is, like, it's kind of just weird. And a lot of, like, I mean, there are some people that I think would just acknowledge, like, yeah, I'm just brainwashed. Well, they wouldn't say they're brainwashed. They'd say, no, you see, my parents taught me. Like, no, you were brainwashed. I'm sorry, dude. You were brainwashed. Here's literally the logic of literally me and every single other religious person in the world. Like, take me and literally any single other person who is religious, regardless of the religion. Like, let's say, like, for this hypothetical, let's say it's a hypothetical new religion, E Pluribus Unumism, it's a religion that worships me. Basically, this E Pluribus Unimist, they look at Christianity and they go, that's bullshit. And then I look at Christianity and go, yeah, that's bullshit. They look at Islam, that's bullshit. I go, yeah, so's that, that's bullshit. They go to Judaism, bullshit, bullshit. Jainism, bullshit. Buddhism, bullshit. And then they do that for 2,999 of the religious beliefs in this world. But then we get to the last one, E Pluribus Unumism. I then go, okay, by that same logic, by that same token, if all these other religions are bullshit, then I don't really see any reason why this one is any more real than the other ones. So it's bullshit. And they go, no, you see, actually, no. You see, this one's the real one. And people unironically just believe that. And it just makes no sense to me. How can you just literally just be like, yep. Right there. That makes total sense. No need for further critical thinking there. And that's why, again, I can't be religious. I'm a critical thinker. And before the comments, I'm a religious critical thinker. Yeah, sure you are, buddy. No need to critically think about the magic sky daddy in the sky that nailed his son to a cross, who's also him. Like, that's just really the biggest reason why I can't be religious and why it just makes no sense to me why people would be religious. I base my thinking of the world on logic, data, and reason. Religion does not have any room for any of that. And I find it odd. Like, I've made very heavily critical remarks of religion, and I think a lot of people don't even understand that I have. Like, when I call things like cults and stuff, it's like, I'm talking about religion. Like, a lot of people like to say, like, oh, no, you see, a religion and a cult is different. No, it's not. It's not. The difference is one is bigger than the other. That's the difference. We consider some things cults because they are smaller and they are weaker. Christianity was considered a cult when it was first made. That's why your Lord and Savior was crucified, because he was a cult leader. Go read your book again. That's literally why he was crucified. And you go, no, you see, he was crucified because he was the Son of God. Yeah. All cult leaders say that. When people are off to go against a cult, literally that's what they say. It's like, they're after us because we're trying to show you the truth. That's what Jonestown said. That's what the fucking Heaven's Gate people did. That's what the fucking, the Waco people did. That's what they did. Look, they're trying to censor the truth. We're the ones who with the real truth, and they're trying to get rid of us. And I'm pretty sure some of those are somewhat sects of Christianity, or at least fake sects of Christianity, because I'm pretty sure that's what they were. At least a decent number of them were, and that's probably the example that they used. I can't, because it's that's what I criticize. I criticize a thing that you cannot critically think and analyze, and that's the thing. Religion, that's what it is. If you criticize it, you're considered a heathen. You're going to hell if you talk back about the fact hey, wait, how did this guy turn water into wine again? There's no way he can walk on water. That's crazy. Especially when something is so inconsistent and hypocritical as religion. A book written by 15 different people espousing basically different viewpoints is inconsistent? That's crazy. I'd love to point out a lot of the inconsistencies of the Bible with a lot of just objective reality and fact. I mean, I remember seeing a meme, it was prominent atheist meme where it's all these animals but one were named in the Bible. Can you guess which one? And it showed a picture of a bunch of fake fantasy creatures and then a dinosaur. It's which one of these isn't in the Bible again? And it's the dinosaur isn't, which is the literally only one that is objectively scientific fact. And I can't do that. And you could look up 15 different fucking atheist videos that can do that already. And going back to 2007, so you've got thousands, if not millions, of videos to watch about that topic. But I did want to point out a funny thing about hypocrisy, because there's a lot of fucking hypocrisy that goes on in religious circles, and a lot of religious people like to point out hypocrisy in religious circles as well. But they also don't acknowledge the fact that they themselves participate in a lot of religious hypocrisy. One common one is a lot of people like to criticize the fact that a lot of people are very unpious, and then they go to church, confess their sins or whatever, and look, I'm good now, I'm good, whatever. But then they themselves also don't do anything regarding fucking religiosity. An example from home is literally a family member literally being yeah, we need to be super violent and eye for an eye, like Jesus once said, when it's no, Matthew 38:48. You have heard that it was said eye for an eye and tooth for a tooth. But I tell you, Do not resist an evil person. If anyone slaps you on the right cheek, turn to them the other cheek also. And if anyone wants to sue you and take your shirt, hand over your coat as well. If anyone forces you to go 1 mile, go with them 2 miles. Give to the one who asks you, and do not turn away from the one who wants to borrow from you. Like, literally, like in the most literal sense. I'm pretty sure that was like less than 48, but like, you get my point. Like that is literally just like the completely most contradictory thing from what fucking Jesus said, period. Like, that is like the most fucking hypocritical and contradictory thing ever. And that's another thing about like the biggest religious hypocrisy. It's like, you look at one specific section of the Bible. That's what a lot of people who do. They'll take one specific section of the Bible. Look, this is my entire lifestyle. This one section. Then they'll conveniently ignore literally every single other section because it's not realistic to espouse those. And here are some of these funny contradictions that I'm pretty sure a majority of the Christians who are listening to this are going to hear, and then they're going to go, uh-oh, because they fucked up. Alright, so first, have you ever eaten pork? Well, according to Leviticus 11:8, you shall not eat of their flesh nor touch their carcasses. They are unclean to you, in reference to pigs. Ever eaten shellfish? Leviticus 11:10. But whatever is in the seas and in the rivers that does not have fins and scales among all the teeming life of the water, and among all the living creatures that are in the water, they are detestable things to you. You ever worn ripped jeans? Leviticus 10:6. Uncover not your heads, neither rend your clones, lest ye die and lest wrath come upon all the people. Do you have a tattoo? Leviticus 19:28. You shall not make any cuts into your body for the dead, nor make any tattoo marks on yourselves. I am the Lord. For the ladies in my audience, have you ever braided your hair or worn jewelry? Timothy 2:9. Likewise, I want women to adorn themselves with proper clothing, modestly and discreetly, not with braided hair or gold or pearls in costly garments. That's right, Christian mothers. When you thought it'd be nice to have your little girl braid their hair for a fun day, you accidentally sent her into eternal damnation. Also, the wedding bands that you get at churches, remember that ring that the pastor puts on your finger? Or at least has you put on each other's fingers? That's crazy. Wait, there's fucking like jewelry in Christianity. Like fucking like, I remember like a bunch of Catholic kids in my school would always like wear rosaries like jewelry. They make fucking Christian jewelry. These people are so fucking stupid. Alright, next for my disabled peeps out there. Have you ever went to church? That's right, disabled people. Have you ever went to church? Leviticus 21:17. No man who has any defect may come near. No man who is blind or lame, disfigured or deformed, nor his nose or eyes be flat. You ever buy a house? Leviticus 25:23. The land must never be sold on a permanent basis, for the land belongs to me. You are only foreigners and tenant farmers working for me. Speaking of, have you ever mistreated foreigners? You know, like what's going on in the election nowadays? Well, Leviticus 19:33 and 19:34. When an alien resides within your land, you shall not oppress the alien. The alien who resides with you shall be to you as a citizen among you. You shall love the alien as yourself, for you were aliens in the land of Egypt. I am the Lord your God. You ever worn polyester? Leviticus 19:19. You are to keep my statutes. You shall not breed together 2 kinds of cattle. You shall not sow your field with 2 kinds of seed, nor wear a garment upon you 2 kinds of material mixed together. This one I was originally going to save for last, but I'll do this one next because this one I just think it's funny. For my fellas, you ever get freaky with a girl, but you don't want to have kids, and you don't have a condom? So you decide, pull out a game, be strong. Well, Genesis 38:9-10, Onan knew that his offspring would not be his, So when he went in to his brother's wife, he wasted his seed on the ground in order not to give offspring to his brother. But what he did was displeasing to the sight of the Lord, so he took his life also. Yeah, God tells you if you pull out, kill yourself. That's funny. That's fucking funny. This is the best one, because this is the biggest fucking, like, oopsie doodle that you could ever fucking see. Have you ever drank alcohol in a church? Anybody in the audience? Anybody in the audience? Have you ever drank alcohol in a church? I mean, I would assume so. It's a very common practice, drinking the blood of Christ. That's what wine is called. Well, Leviticus 10:9, do not drink wine nor strong drink, thou nor thy sons with thee, when ye go into the tabernacle of the congregation, lest ye die. It shall be a statute forever throughout your generations. Uh-oh, SpaghettiOs. So yeah, Catholics, you guys are as fucked as your choir boys. So yeah, unless all you guys are willing to, like, give all that shit up, then I don't want to hear a peep about, thou shalt not lie with another man. Fuck off, dude. Fuck off, dude. You guys are all going to hell, dude. Unless that's just unless Christianity is literally just the most fucking nihilistic religion out there. Just like, yeah, we're all fucked, we're going to hell, we're all gonna die, the end. But I can't criticize that, because remember, if I criticize that, I'm a heathen. Ooh, scary, scary. And I guess with that point, I guess I should move on to this, because I wrote this big section. I didn't necessarily know where to put it. I think it's best to put it here, because the next section is going to be a little different. I didn't know if I wanted to end with this or something else. This was originally written earlier in the notes, but it didn't really fit with that theme. I guess it fit better after I gave all the hypocrisy notice and all the point of criticizing religion, because this one is a very, very interesting criticism of religion, because this is a tangent again, but I think it's a funny tangent, or an interesting tangent. One that's definitely a very sussy baka tangent, but a very interesting one nonetheless, because it's a very hot take, especially on this day. Oh boy, I guess we'll get into it. So, remember my conspiracy video? Like the video I made where I talked about conspiracy theories that I kind of believed in? Well, there is one thing that I left out in that video, because I didn't necessarily know if it counted as a conspiracy theory. To my understanding, it was just a historical debate that was going on, but it wasn't until I did some research afterwards that I realized that this is technically considered a conspiracy theory. Or not necessarily a conspiracy theory, but more like a fringe theory, which I think is actually just bullshit, really. The fact that this is just immediately thrown off as like a fringe conspiracy, or like a fringe theory, I think that's just BS, to be honest. But we'll get into that as I explain it a little bit. And I think some people who are listening to this are going, uh-oh, I think I know where this is going. Now, another reason why I also didn't cover this one is because it was kind of in that category where it's like, I didn't necessarily believe it 100%, but I did kind of like think about it a little bit. And, well, like, again, like, I don't believe it 100%. We'll get into why in a bit. But this is basically, like something that is stapled among an actual historical debate that is going on, which is also a BS historical debate, but like, whatever. Like, the historical debate that has nothing necessarily to do with this conspiracy, or this theory, is that the historical accuracy of the Bible. That is a very common historical debate that many people go on. Like, how accurate is the Bible to history? Now, historians, like most normal historians, throw out all the magic and the unicorns and the blah, 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 that kind of stuff. They throw that stuff immediately out. But they basically want to figure out, like, okay, but like, how do we determine, like, if these events actually happened, or, like, how, like, these events went on, like, and how accurate they are in reality? Like, for example, like, did the world flood in a certain year? Probably not. I think we could all generally assume no, didn't happen, not at all. But it's like, okay, but, like, was there a flood in that area, in that time period, that was significant enough that could have made people think a worldwide flood happened? Then there's also a discussion about, like, okay, but, like, what about Jesus Christ? What was his whole role in the actual history of this religion and of this world? What was his actual role? Most people in the historical community, like, even if they are Christian, try to, like, ignore the whole, like, divinity part and try to acknowledge, like, okay, but, like, what about the historical Jesus? What about the historical Jesus? Like, what did he actually, like most people like to do the thing where it's like Muslims do this too, where it's like, Jesus, peace be upon him, was a prophet, but he was not the Son of God. Only Christians believe that Jesus Christ is the Son of God. So everyone else has to accept the fact that he's not. But most historians like to go, okay, well, like, we can ignore, like, a lot of the magic hullabaloo and stuff there, but they come to a general consensus that there is a historical Jesus. A consensus I don't believe. Yes, I'm apparently one of the few people who actually takes the Christ myth theory seriously, and all the Christians in the comment section go crazy. Like I said before, I don't 100% believe this, but I'll explain to you why I take this a little bit more seriously than a lot of people would think so. For one starters, lols, it's funny, being, like, edgy and contrarian, like, haha, Jesus doesn't exist, But really, in, like, the actual, like, realness, there's one very big thing that we have to look at, and that is the fact that there is no historical proof of Jesus Christ during his lifetime. The Bible is essentially Jesus' biography, and the Bible is an unreliable source. Historians do not cite the Bible as proof that Jesus existed. Much in the same way, we don't cite Marvel Comics as proof the Avengers exist. Historians look to other examples as to proof that Jesus existed. But again, big problem. The only proof that Jesus Christ existed in his lifetime is the Bible. That's the only thing that proves that Jesus Christ existed in his lifetime. Allegedly, we don't know when the Bible was truly published. It could have been published like 100 years after Jesus' death. It could have been published a year after Jesus' death. It could have been published the day Jesus Christ was born. But citing the Bible as proof that Jesus Christ exists is basically the equivalent of citing the Das Kapital or the Communist Manifesto as proof that communism can be viable. Like, it's not necessarily that big of a piece of evidence, even though I think many people would actually argue that Capital would probably be a more accurate source and more accurate proof of something than the Bible. And most people acknowledge this. Like, again, like, if you're in the historical field, you acknowledge that fact and don't cite the Bible. But then you'd have to question this. What about every single other source from Christians? Because a lot of people like to cite sources from Christians as proof Jesus existed. Except they also have a concerted reason to push the lie, and their thinking ties into the whole Bible thing. So how can you really trust the things that they say in regards to proof of Jesus being real or not? But that's when things got interesting, because, like, again, I looked into a lot of this before actually coming to my own conclusion on the whole Christ myth theory, because it's like, I had it in my mind, like, oh yeah, I guess he's not real, because, like, again, he was but then I looked into the actual sources, like, okay, so maybe I had to look into the individual sources to see how it is. And the thing is, most historians acknowledge this as well, so they put those on, like a lower pedestal than two other sources. These are actually the two main sources that many people use as proof of a historical Jesus. And there are various reasons why they consider these ones more reliable than other ones. First comes from a Jewish historian named Josephus, who wrote a 20-volume historical piece, and the life of Jesus is mentioned in a couple of pages. The second being a Roman senator by the name of Tacitus, who was also a historian, who wrote a lot about Jesus in his final work, with many people going, see, neither of these two are Christian, and yet they verify, allegedly, that there was a guy called Jesus who was in the area, and that he espoused Christianity, and that he was nailed to a cross. Ergo, Jesus Christ confirmed? Well, I'm here to say historians are wrong, and I'm right, because I have some questions about some of these sources, or not necessarily questions, but like criticisms. For starters, and this is one of the biggest ones, again,
why a lot of sources, this ties back in the first point. Nothing in his lifetime. Neither of these things were written in his lifetime. I thought, like, when I was going into it, it's like, okay, were these, like, written around the time of his life? Like, I would have even accepted, like, they were written, like, the first one was written in the year 93, and the second one was written in 116. Like, I mean, hell, I would have actually, like, I wouldn't, like, I mean, it's not even like that it was that, like, both of these sources were written almost a century, like, around a century after Jesus' alleged death. I would have accepted if maybe they were written, like, a year after the death. Maybe 5 and 10 at most. Like, that would have seemed, like, somewhat plausible. Like, maybe they could have, like, been there, I guess, allegedly. They could have they could have, like, talked with people who were there. But no, it was written hundreds of years. Like, and even now, like, if you want to write an event about something like hundreds of years ago, what you do is that you're supposed to do research on events, on research that had already taken place. And this was back in this time period. A lot of this research was kind of new. And one thing that's very odd that has been pointed out is that Tacitus, like, a lot of historians seem to point out the fact that Tacitus doesn't name the sources that he says about going into the story of Jesus Christ. And they're like, it was intentionally vague. He doesn't say where he got his sources from. It's like, well, guys, I hate to disappoint you, but based on modern day evidence, the only proof of Jesus Christ's life during that time period that would have been available to research was the Bible, which we've already stated is an unreliable source. Now, that's the criticism I can give to both of them broadly, but now we can get into individual criticisms of both of these sources. So, first we'll start off with Josephus. Unfortunately for him, when his source was first found and first used as proof that Jesus Christ was real, when it referred to Jesus in the text, it referred to Jesus as the Lord. A Jewish person would not call Jesus Christ Lord. That's not their religion, which is very odd. So, unfortunate for him, it was tampered with. His original source was tampered with, which now calls into question the reliability of this source. Like, most people generally have figured out, like, okay, so he probably didn't write the Lord. He probably just blanket referenced Jesus Christ, and maybe a Christian found it and then changed it to the Lord. It's like, well, but again, I can't trust the source anymore. Who knows? What if this entire thing was made up? You can make a case for a lot of other, like, historical things, especially from that long ago. It's like case-by-case basis. It's like, I don't know. I don't fucking know. But for Tacitus, there's one very strange, like, it's a very strange thing. Like, because a lot of people try to use this as proof that there's no way Tacitus could be an unreliable source. Was the reason why they don't think that Tacitus could be an unreliable source in this matter was because Tacitus hated Christians. Like, I mean, many people understand that, like, a Christian wouldn't be used because they have a vetted interest in trying to prove Jesus Christ is real and all this stuff is real. But it's like, Tacitus, like, he hates Christians. He, like, in the text that he, like, talks about Jesus' life, he calls Christians' actions abominations and the persecution they received under the Roman Empire exquisite. With a lot of people going like, oh, well, if a guy who hates Jesus thinks that Jesus is real, that's proof enough for us, right? But that makes no sense. Doesn't Tacitus was a Roman senator, prominent Roman figure. He has a vetted interest in the story of Jesus because, again, like, he called the persecution that Christians received exquisite. He wants to justify the persecution that they received. And how else can you persecute? How else can you explain this? Like, they had a dangerous cult leader, and yeah, they got rid of him. Of course he cheerleaded that. Like, he has a vetted interest as well. He wants to make Rome look good and praising the actions of the Romans. So he uses that story in a propagandistic manner. But that last thing is kind of the biggest reason why I can't necessarily say 100% certainty, like, I believe 100% the Christ myth theory.
And that's because, at the end of the day, unless we invent a time machine and then we can go back in time and see for ourselves the actions that happened, we won't know. We know he didn't walk on water because people can't do that. We know that he didn't like magically ascend to the sky because people can't do that. We know that he didn't come back to life because he didn't do that. But we can't know for certainty if there was a guy called Jesus Christ who existed and was nailed to a cross, who preached Christianity. Like, we can't know that for a fact unless we travel back in time and see that happen before our very eyes. Because we all have a vested interest in answering that question. And we're all going to have bias that is going to cloud our judgment on this. There's not going to be someone who's going to verifiably... Like, let's just imagine. Richard Dawkins puts in a huge effort to try and prove this, and tries to look into all this, tries to figure out the truth, and then publishes his findings. Are we really going to believe 100% certainty that Dawkins is 100% telling the truth, even though he's had a vested interest in years to try and disprove Christianity? Like, I mean, like, even for me, like, even if I did that, would you believe me? I mean, I hope that you would at least look into the things and see what I found. Like, I mean, you know me, I don't intentionally lie to you. I try to be as objective as I can. I try to bring, like, truth no matter what. But it's like, but really? But are you sure? Are you sure? You won't be able to 100% know for sure if I'm, like, leaving out a piece of information. Now, one last thing. I guess this is the last thing. Again, it's basically to reiterate a point that I said at the beginning of all this. Well, religion, you don't have to, being religious does not automatically make you bad. Like, I mean, there are a lot of people who are religious that do good and they do right things. Eugene Debs, Hugo Chavez, Emiliano Zapata, etc. But another reason why I think religion is just generally harmful to society is that people like that represent a vast minority of religious people. The church, 9 times out of 10, will choose to align with the worst elements of society. 85% of Christians in the U.S. voted for literally the least virtuous man in the U.S. A man who has had multiple extramarital affairs, was friends and customer to a child sex trafficker. Evangelicals overwhelmingly voted for him. Evangelicals are the ones who are the most socially reactionary of all the people in the United States. They stand completely antithetical to what is the best course of action for the U.S. and the world. Even though their supposed deity says that they should be doing things a hell of a lot different. Even before comments going like, but Islam, fuck them too, I don't care. But where's the religious Islam party that I'm supposed to be fighting against in the U.S.? Where are they? Where are they? I don't see them. This has been a talking point for years where people are like, Islam is more religiously fundamentalist than Christianity and it's way more anti-gay and all that stuff. But it's it's very weird considering every single Muslim I've met in life and every single fucking Muslim politician that I keep trying to say Islamic politician. I don't know why, but I guess this is my brain trying to connect it to I call Christians fundamentalists, Christian fundamentalists and evangelicals, but all the Muslim politicians I've seen, they ain't been no fundamentalists. They ain't been saying yeah, we gotta stone the gays. They haven't been saying that. They've been some of the most socially progressive ever. When there's a fucking Sharia law party, then we could start talking about that. And when they not even just that, when there's just a Sharia law party, when there's a Sharia law party that actually has fucking power in the United States, that's when we can start talking about that. But that's not the world we live in. We live in a nation where the Christian nationalists, the Christian fundamentalists, they're the ones who are trying to halt social progress. And that's another problem. Christianity and a lot of religion, a lot of people like to point out the fact, what good really is bashing religion and bashing all this stuff. It's these things are holding us back, literally, in the most literal sense. Right now, IVF is being threatened because Christian nationalists and Christian fundamentalists can't fucking fathom the idea of we need to IVF. We need to do that. They can't fathom that. Much the same way they couldn't fathom stem cell research. Much in the same way they can't fathom 2 consensual adults kissing each other. Because again, these guys, they're not actually they use religion to spread the messages they already believe in. That's the fact. We all know that. Like, we all understand that. But the problem is they still use the fucking religion for that fact. So it's like, it's basically like gun control. Like, it's like, you're gonna regulate guns even though they like fucking like killed a bunch of grade schoolers? Come on, dude. Why are you not doing that? It's like it makes sense. Ban the tool that's killing people and harming people. Same way with religion. Religion is the opiate of the masses, as Karl Marx once said. And it's worse because it's like a lot of poor people, like, they get lulled into a false sense of security. It's like, if I do religion, then religion's gonna fix the problem. It's like, no, it's causing a lot of problems that even the fucking right is gonna pretend that they care a lot about. It's like people like, oh, homeless people won't get jobs or whatever, which isn't fucking true. The job market is fucking terrible in the United States. But think about it. Why would a poor person want to go and actively search for a job when they can just pray for one? And guess what? That prayer ain't gonna do jack shit because there's no guy listening. It's all just complete BS. And again, I know there's some people that are gonna try and comment and try to be like, but like, religious people can do good things. It's like, yeah, of course they fucking can. And of course, atheists can do bad things. Yeah, of course, I understand. I'm not fucking brain dead. I'm not stupid. But let's think about this again logistically for 2 minutes. John Brown, one of the most fucking like religious people one of the most fucking like avowedly Christian people in the fucking United States, literally went on a big anti-slavery like revolt because he's like the Bible. He believed that God was talking to him and telling him that we need to end slavery once and for all. Meanwhile, that same token, literally every single slaveholder in the United States was using that same fucking book that he prayed to every night to justify ripping a 5-year-old from their parents, selling them as fucking property, forcing them to work in a cotton field for days, weeks, years, while the fucking person who bought her gets to walk up to her, beat her senselessly with a whip until she has her skin cracks and her blood spills everywhere, and then gets to be fucking raped by him. Oh, but don't worry, we get to teach her that God is looking down on her and blah 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 bullshit like that. This is just fucking bullshit. Like, it is infuriating and enraging that this is even a discussion at this point. We live in 2024. The fact that this is even still a discussion is just infuriating. And I know there are going to be some people that are going to make a fucking like comment or whatever. And I say this and no one's going to make a comment because nobody cares. They're going to make a comment and be like, oh, well, guess you're going to hell. Then I'm going to have to drop a really fucking hot take here. Because if heaven and hell is real, I would 100% rather be in hell. I am not bending the knee to that fucker. I am not going to spend eternity praising someone who let fucking slavery happen, let 9/11 happen, let the Holocaust happen, let the massive molestations in his churches happen, let fucking Kissinger, who has killed 3 million people, live to be 100 fucking years old, but people who have done nothing wrong get stage 5 terminal cancer when they're 3 and die. I'm not bending the knee to that fucker. And this is going to be a really hard pill to swallow for a lot of those fucking socialists, especially those Christian socialists out there. But this is going to be a really hard pill to swallow. But let's talk about this. If the whole point of socialism is that we're anti-authority, why do you still stand up for the authority of God? Should you instead not lead a socialist revolution in the afterlife? Because again, if heaven and hell is real, that's 100% what I'm fucking doing. I am not on that fucker's side. This doesn't matter really at all. I can say whatever the fuck I want because it doesn't matter. Because when I die, that's it. There is no afterlife. Although this is like literally just pure hypothetical. It's nonsense. Anyways, that's pretty much all I gotta say. Merry significant day where nothing interesting happens. Thanks for watching this video. Be sure to like, comment, share, subscribe, and click the bell to notify when a future video of mine comes out. And if you're interested in more content from me, you can go to my website, follow me on Twitter, join my Discord, or consider supporting me on Patreon.